Hello and welcome for today's webinar, as usually hosted by the Open Telecom Cloud community. Today we have a very interesting topic with us. It's the release summary and the roadmap of 2023. So we have today three guests with us here. We have Tao, we have Daniel, and we have Hector. All three are product managers for the Open Telecom Cloud, and they will present us in the next hour. At first, a summary, what we already have achieved and delivered in this year 2023 as great new features and functionalities at one hand, and at the other hand, then we will have a look at the most important elements of the roadmap, which you see publicly also at the homepage. And today you will get there some more detailed information about what you can expect with these functionalities here, how they will be implemented, what functionalities they will then have, what benefits you will get out of these new features, etc., etc. Then I will give the word over to Daniel.
Thank you very much, Stefan. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Daniel. I'm Chief Product Manager at Open Telecom Cloud, and I would like to give you a short introduction of what we have released now in 2023. Therefore, it's called releases. Of course, if you have any questions, always, of course, as mentioned, you can ask in the chat. And of course, if we may not find the time to answer those, of course, there's always a community, and we're even reviewing what is going up in the community from a product management perspective and try to answer then the questions. So independent of if you're able to answer this here, you can always use the community to put your questions there, and we're trying to help you. First of all, one of our first releases was the update of Windows Server images, as you might have seen. So we provided here new Windows Server images for 2012 R2, 2016, 2019, and 2022 with a lot of improvements. I didn't list it here, all the improvements which has been made, for example, the availability of the NVIDIA V100 and T4 driver, the Windows malicious software removal tool, which is applicable for all these different server images. And there's, of course, some specifications which are different here. And here I would like to make you aware that we have here at imagefactory.otc.tsystems.com, we have here our own release notes section, which our colleagues which are preparing the images, where they are preparing all the information for the images. But I don't want to go into too much detail right now, but this is one of our first releases which we have done. In addition, we have provided here the AI deep learning image in our NL region, which is an artificial intelligence image for ECS, which is available as a preview. So this preview means which is for testing purpose only. And of course, the image is completely free of charge. So this is based on Ubuntu 20. And we have here TensorFlow, PyTorch, MXNet, and Jupyter Labs, which is available and included into this image, which we have even released here in NL region for those of you which might use the NL region or maybe consider this. So you can even use now this image here in our NL region. One of the highlights from beginning of this year is, of course, our new help center. I hope every one of you have already recognized this and identified that we have released a new help center, which we call Help Center 3.0. And the Help Center 3.0 brings various improvements here. So you have already seen that there's user guides included, the API references, the documents have been updated. So we've updated all the documentation and brought this into this new design. And what we have even done in the backend, which is maybe invisible for you, but what we have done even, we try to improve here our maintenance and update process to be much faster in updating these documentations. That's the reason why we changed, for example, the backend infrastructure, etc. So we have done a lot of and spent a lot of efforts here to have a better and improved maintenance and update process for the documentation, have it always up to date available and all data up to date available. And I hope that you can see this progress. What we have done in addition, we have even where deep links are existing to old pages, they are redirected now to the new help center, And what we've done in addition is an improved integration into search engines. The new documentation is even ready for mobile usage. And one of the highlights which I would like to emphasize where you can even help us to make it even better is, of course, we have now included here a report bug functionality. So if you go throughout the help center and you see something can not only be used for reporting a bug. If you have the feeling that maybe the description is not useful, you didn't understand this or something like this, you can just click here on this report bug item. functionality, which is listed on all the different documentation pages and can report an issue and bug. You can even put a request in place. Oh, this description is maybe not useful. You would like to have this or this kind of additional information and would like to see this here. Then please feel free to use the functionality and help us to even make the user manual better and improve here as well. So that's an important aspect, I think, that we have included, that you can directly include feedback here, that you can directly include and bug if you find something or something which is not very well described, and you can help us here even improving the quality of our documentation. So, of course, you can find this in docs.otc.tsystems.com. And I think that's one of the highlights. So, and feel always free to provide us feedback here. Then we have released the data replication service to the NL regions. So I suppose that you have recognized that we have spent a lot of efforts within the various couple of months, bringing more services, more and more services, more and more functionality even into the NL region. And here you have the functionality that you can, of course, do the database online migration synchronization with the data replication service, so migrate databases and synchronize them in real time. So it supports here MySQL, PostgreSQL, MS SQL, and the MongoDB. And of course, you can find a complete specification, even in our documentation, which I highlighted here. You can find the complete specification, which kind of migration is possible here from on-premise databases to cloud databases, etc. So you can here migrate databases across the platforms. You are able to do it from on-premise databases to the cloud. And of course, migrating self-built databases on ECS to our cloud services. That's what you have, and the complete specification is, of course, given. I would like to highlight that we have even here the product description available on our product page here for the data replication service, as well as you can find a good description, of course, inside our documentation here as well. Then we have here highlighted even that we have now on support here for data replication service that supports now MySQL to Kafka, so that we have a real-time data flow here between the MySQL database and Kafka, which is even updated here in our specification. So where you can even do an incremental update and of these databases to the Kafka cluster. What we have brought, and one of the highlights which we've brought here now as well into our portfolio, is in the Elastic Volume service on the storage side, on the block storage side. We have brought here a new block storage service, which is the Extreme SSD disk type, which we have brought into our portfolio, which is one of the highlights here, which we have released. As you have maybe recognized, we have put the high I/O performance optimized and the ultra I/O latency optimized end of sales already. And brought now as a replacement, of course, for the ultra I/O latency optimized, we brought now the Extreme SSD, which you can completely use on our ECS portfolio as well as on our BMS, which provides you here on BMS a maximum IOPS of 128,000 and on ECS 100,000. Here I would like to just give you an additional information. So we are right now updating ECS in order to have even ECS flavor supporting the complete 128,000 IOPS here, where you will receive in a short period of time even a release note, where we will give you a more in-depth information about which ECS flavor is able to support here 128. So we're working here on improving that situation to even give you the full capacity here, but that's currently the situation, and you will get in short period of time even a notice. We have here a max throughput of even 1 gigabit per second. Latency is below 1 millisecond, and the durability is even 9 multiplied 9, as well as the availability 99.95%. What I would like to mention is you can find, of course, the pricing information inside our service description or even in our price calculator. So you can see now here, when you look into the OTC console, you can see now that you have now the Extreme SSD flavor or this type as an option. You will find it even on the price calculator. So if in case of you see that all the integrations are done and you can find conveniently all pricing information inside our calculator, etc. So please feel free to use this for the high IOPS load. And now I would like to get into the system disk encryption, which is even something which we have now released even in the NL region. So we have updated the functionality now in all our region, including our Swiss OTC and CH region, which is a community cloud, as you might know. And so now you can even do the system disk encryption inside the ECS using the NL region. So you need to, of course, first select the image. So if you're looking for this feature, you first need to select the image on our console, for example. Afterwards, you will see here the show and hide button. Then you click on show, and then you see the encryption functionality, and you can select and or create the conveniently your CAMS key in order to make use of the functionality. What I would like to maybe highlight once again is maybe the encryption functionality. So if you use encryption disks, then of course, if you create based on this an image and backup or a snapshot, this means that these image backup snapshots is even encrypted. And if you continuously then, for example, use this disk to create use a snapshot, backup, image, whatever, to create a disk, to create a server, then of course this will be encrypted as well. So this is just an additional information which I would like to highlight here and emphasize. So you are aware about if you use the encryption that this goes through the complete chain, and that if you create an image, a backup, and snapshot out of it, everything from that onwards is even encrypted from that moment onwards. So please feel free to not, please take care to not delete it or disable the key, because this means, of course, that you may not lose the ability to read or write from this disk, so data may not be restorable and are lost. So please keep this in mind. If you handle these keys, I think you are always aware about this, but I just wanted to give you that information. So if you have any questions, of course, you can always go into the community. We have here on the YouTube channel, we have the videos of these sessions. You can go to the help center, or if you have any questions, you can always get in contact with me and write me an email, contact me. So I'm always here to help you. So now I would like to hand back to Stefan.
Thank you, Daniel, for presenting the summary of what we already achieved in this year 2023. Thank you a lot. I will hand over to Tao, who will be our next presenter.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Tao Liu. I'm the product manager of container service on OTC. I'm glad to have the opportunity to introduce our container services to you in this webinar today. In this presentation, I'm going to introduce our upcoming services, CC Turbo and CCI, and compare them with our existing CCE services. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. Let me first explain our roadmap in this year. Our standard cloud container engine, CCE, will be continually updated in this year. Version 1.25 will be released soon. The next generation of CCE cloud, our cloud container engine, CCE Turbo, is now in beta phase and will be in GA release in Q2. A new serverless container service, CCI, cloud container instance, will go live as a beta product in next quarter. To help you better understand what's coming up, I would like to start with some background information. Nowadays, we often hear about digital transformation. But what is digital transformation and how does it work? A simple answer is here. In the beginning, the business systems are running on servers. In this phase, the device is the centric. In the second phase, to reduce the TCO, total cost of ownership, the business are moved to cloud. In this phase, resource automation is the main task to be handled, and the resource is the centric. Now, we are in phase 3. We call it cloud native phase. In this phase, application is the main characters. Most components on the cloud infrastructure could be defined by the applications. The performance, the flexibility, and the robustness of the business applications will be further improved. Container is an important technology for enabling cloud native. According to the report from IDC, by this year, the number of containers used by the enterprise will exceed the number of virtual machines worldwide. And by this year, 80% of industry applications worldwide will be reconstructed into cloud-native applications. The cloud vendor like AWS, Azure, and OTC already offer container services. At OTC, it is CCE, a container service based on Kubernetes. But these products are partial cloud native services. They are still resource centric, just like a assembled PC. The applications on them are just grown in cloud. To achieve the goal of true cloud native, we, OTC, upgraded our entire cloud platform last year. The new platform could be seen as an integrated computer, like the workstations from HP, Dell, or Lenovo. We call this new platform as Cloud Native 2.0 architecture. Now, the applications on it can be born and developed in the cloud. The CCE Turbo is one of the products based on this new cloud native architecture. The structure of Cloud Native 2.0 is shown in this diagram. As you can see, CCE and CC Turbo and the CCI are the main services of this new platform. In the next part of my presentation, I will describe the main difference between CCE and CC Turbo. In CCE Turbo has 4 important improvements over CCE: network acceleration, upgraded scheduling, edge cloud collaborations, and comprehensive security. I will briefly explain each of them. Network acceleration. Instead of 2-layer network on CCE, Cloud Native Network 2.0 is a single-layer network. Trunk ports on VMs and ENIs on BMS are used to improve the container network performance. In addition, during external access, pass-through networking with zero network loss can also be achieved by using ERB v3. Upgraded scheduling. The existing CCE supports only manually scheduling, while CCE Turbo used Workhandle for intelligent, dynamic scheduling. With enhanced node resource management, CCE Turbo supports hybrid deployment of all online and offline services. Edge cloud collaboration. It is a new feature of CCE Turbo. Not only the resources on the central cloud, but also the resources on home zones and IES. IES means intelligent edge site, can also be co-managed by CCE Turbo. Offline autonomy is also used to ensure stable service running in harsh networks. Comprehensive security. CCE Turbo supports both VMs and BMS as work nodes. VMs use the runC containers, while BMS uses the Kata containers. The Kata containers on BMS can provide VM levels isolation. In addition to this, thanks to the single-layer container network, access control and QoS rate limiting are based on VPC security groups. It is also improves the security level. Now, we go into the next part, the difference between CCE and CCI. The whole name of CCI is Cloud Container Instance. It is a serverless container services. This picture comes from Gartner, And the multi-layer of serverless architecture is displayed on it. As you can see, CCE belongs to the serverless infrastructure, while CCI belongs to the serverless containers. And in the serverless containers layer, the responsibility of capacity management is removed. With the help of this chart, we can better understand the difference between CCE and the CCI. The orange parts on it are the responsibility of the user. On the CCE side, users are not only responsible for the creation and the management of the containers, but also for the creation and the management of the cluster and work nodes. In comparison, on the CCI side, the user is only responsible for the creation and management of the containers. The rest of the work, such as node management and the capacity planning, is no longer needed. Therefore, the OM cost is further reduced. In other words, the user's choice between CCE and the CCI is also a choice between flexibility and easy of use. Of course, the billing modes of the two services are also different as well. Okay, that's all of my presentation. Thanks a lot. And back to Stefan.
Perfect. Thank you a lot, Tao, for your presentation here. Was really informative. Next one will be then Hector. So I would lead over to you, Hector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for the ones that they don't know me, I am Hector Lopez Romero. I am Senior Product Manager on the Open Telecom Cloud. I'm more responsible for databases and recently for big data and AI services. Today, I'm really happy to join you. And then now let's have a short introduction of our new services that we want to offer next quarter. And then now let's start. As far as you know, now it is the question about this service. It's called distributed database service. So with this service, it's always the question who will belongs. It is, of course, based on our OTC services that it should belong to the database. So that means it's also a part or extension of it. So next one, of course, it is what this distributed database middleware service does. So in short, of course, what it can solve. It's always the question when you are a customer and you get a new option, new service, you really are interested if you can use it or not, and what kind of use case can you fit from the point of view of your applications and so on. So for that, it is used that it can distribute database in a different way. So that means this distributed database middleware is not more that use a strategy how to manage the capacity extension of your database. And this will then will be delivered in three main facts. The one is that distributed database supports the so-called sharding. This sharding can be done at the database level and the table level. You can also set groups for read-write splitting, so you can decide how the current connections to your database should be then distributed. And of course, one also of the big values for this database service, it supports scaling. It's not auto-scaling, please don't get this wrong. Scaling, it means you have to decide when's best to do the scaling, but nevertheless, it is just a possibility. It's just a part of these cloud services, as you already know. And you can also, with this solution, improve the database read-write performance. So at least it is just like a solution for applications that are really with high demand, that needs you see that you may probably have bottlenecks and so on. Another way how to see this distributed database middleware will be like, what is the target group? If you, for example, are a company that has complex way to do scale ups, then it will be fit exactly in your solutions. So, and if you see that also the data migration is somehow complicated in some ways, that the amount of data that you have provided in your database is really huge. So this will be also fixed or solved. And if you see, for example, that you have a lot of performance problems, performance can be in different ways. So when we say performance, we all focus on, for example, disk storage. But performance has a lot of matters of facts. So this is just performance could be also on the connectivity. Performance will be also on the read-write, on also other facts on the database level. Also scalability or of the database, it's a really pain point in this case. At this point, so when we see this database middleware, you may see that based on this, the core technology, or let's say the most important part that with this distributed database middleware service offers to you, it's more that it introduces a so-called sharding. Sharding technology, it's really not really new. It's already been used in different other clouds. So it is a really big value, of course, because with this sharing, it's like you are trying to partitioning your database in different places. And with this sharing, you will be able exactly to distribute your queries more with strategy. And with that, then you will increase performance, minimize latency, and this will be also probably affect the connections to your database. That will be also a very good value. So by now it is just like we say what this is really does, but let's see, for example, a use case so that you get more involved what this could be fit. By now, as your company has needs in the cloud, most of the services want ADS, so the database service that we offer. Then you have your application, and the developers you start deploying applications. As you know, companies are still growing. Databases, it's not. It's a matter of fact that they will be still continuous growing. So it is just the daily work. Let's say like that. And with LDS, you can only just do this. You can create read replicas, scale storage, change tense class. So that means all what you see here on the left column, it is the possibilities that you can use actually in LDS. By that, as you have a production system, it's expected that you will have a high availability database. With this database, you have the primary standby. You can also attach them read replicas. In this case, for a distributed database middleware, I forgot to tell you that this is a solution only used for MySQL. So if you are thinking about Postgres on RDS and Microsoft SQL Server, that will not fit. This is now has been implemented in this distributed database middleware. One of the questions that you are probably now thinking, why MySQL and not the other databases? It's because MySQL is the second most used database on the world. So first it's Oracle, and then second is MySQL. And most of the customers also on the OTC, and I'm pretty sure in all other clouds, are really using MySQL really often. For that point of view, okay, great job. We have the database. It's already running. Production is already started. Fine for me. Perfect. Now we know the business is increasing. We are happy that all the people from high management, they see, okay, applications are also increasingly growing, but what about the database? So because only just to see that the application usability, the amount of users, the data that are just continuously improving database and SQL queries are increasing. Now is the question, what about the database? Or as we already know, all resources on cloud service has limits. We are not the only cloud. All other clouds has the same problem. In this case, you will come to the point that the database you could be reached the full storage. So your database is completely full. Then you have to decide how to start doing the migration of existing database to other new RDS instance and so on. So there are a lot of strategies outside on the world that they decide which strategy could be fit that. But the problem is, nevertheless, you will come to this point one day. It's not like this. That means now it is that we are closely to reach this. The question by now is, does this also be on my company fits now or recently? It depends, of course, of every usage on the company on the companies. There are some small middleware companies. They don't they use the database, but not really strong as other companies, like let's say for IoT solutions that they also have injecting a lot of data in database. So this application slows down and affects customer experience. And if the customer experience is affected, as we already know, you can lose your business, and that's not exactly the deal. For that case, then what this will be the solution with distributed database middleware? As I told you before, there are only just three topics that we have to just talk in these slides. The one is DDM is deployed as a cluster. So you can imagine that you have to deploy at least 2 instances on DDM. These both instances are cluster. And then to this instance, as you may see, they are both active. You get from the application the routing to this DDM, and DDM will be start distributing or routing exactly SQL queries to RDS instance. At this point, we are talking about RDS instance. It could be also possible we will introduce soon GaussDB. It's also a database that we want also to offer on the OTC. And then this will be these two possibilities that you can use with DDM. At this point, then you have two different here in this picture databases. These databases has been shared. So that means each database has a specific partition inside. And with this partition, then the routing it will be really, really very easy to distribute to these two databases displayed in this slide. The intention, as you see, now we have two RDS instances that are used at the end for the application. It seems that it should be just one database, but in reality, it serves just to distribute traffic between two data nodes. I mean, the two RDS instances. That means you can still have really balance. You can set rules to these shares. You can distribute a huge table that is probably 10 millions or billions of rows. You can distribute this table around these shards, and then only use the SQL queries will then try to access these shards through the use of shard key. And with this shard key, then it accesses a specific shard, and this is it. So you see, it is just like on the other technologies like proxy, let's say like that. And this distributed database middleware solves exactly this solution. But it is not just a proxy, because proxy is just distributed traffic, and this is it. With this distributed database middleware, you may have another options. As you see here, for example, in the left column, you will see you can just create instance. Instance, it's meant of the DDM. As I told you before, you need to deploy at minimum 2 of them. And then you can set also the shards. So shards is the RDS instance. How many shards? I mean, how many partitions do you want to use on each RDS? You can also create backups, logical tables, execute SQL queries, and associate on the MySQL instance some kind of rules. So like which shard should be then receive which traffic and so on. So it's really important at this point that this data node that we have is the minimum managed unit of DDM. That means it is just where the data is stored on database. If somebody thinks, okay, which those DDM will be save customer data, I mean from the database, the answer is not. It's just serving just as a service that forward information from one end to the other end. In one end is the client or the application, the other end is IRD instance. No more, no less. So you can create multiple schemas. Schemas is in the way of databases. So database, I mean, when you use the MySQL command, create database and set a name, it is exactly in this case called schema for DDM, but it's the same meaning. And then you, with this schema in a DDM instance, you can manage data nodes and access each data node independently. So you will see that it will take less time to retrieve specific information or run a query from a shared database that in the use one solution database. What other value can we see now on this slide? The other value is, as we know, one RDS instance can just have at the maximum 4 terabytes of data, and you cannot increase. In this case, if we create a database and distribute this in this shared with 2 RDS instances, then the storage will be increased twice. So that means then you can now find a way that you can scale out or not scale in a database. At this point, then what is then at the end, if we want to make a short description of the architecture of DDM, as you may see, there is one ELB, so a load balancer, like in a cluster. Then this load balancer, behind that, the scenes will then distribute to each DDM instance the traffic. And with this DDM, then they will connect to at least one, or probably more RDS instance. So the question is, of course, what are limitations? Limitation we will see in the next slides. Most important is that you know in these slides, so this is the way how this architecture is working. So DDM instance then access databases in different places on different RDS and so on. Keep in mind, this is not that easy. So for existing productive system, it is not possible just to attach that RDS and then the DDM will automatically do this sharding on the existing data and so on. For this, you will really need a fresh new deployed RDS instance, then associated to DDM, and then the sharding will starting at that point. That means somehow you have to execute a migration from production RDS into this DDM way of sharding technology. What these shards, as you probably know, there are too many sharding strategy. One of them, for example, is range-based sharding. There is also hash or hash sharding, directory sharding, geo sharding, and all of these sharding proposals is just how to fit your current business. For example, in this case, DDM will support only just two strategies of sharding. The one is range-based sharding. This range-based sharding is more for e-commerce solutions, and for example, the other one, the hash sharding, will be fit, for example, for banking. So these both solutions, of course, they have a different approach. With range-based sharding, then you have to decide for the specific shard key. It's just a data type on your table. You say, for example, the names that start from A to B will be used shared number 1, the names starting with C until N in shared number 2, and so on. And you will then, in this case, start distributing exactly the location to save your data on your database accordingly to the information provided for the SQL query. Now, that means in the SQL query, you have also to give the shared key only just to access really quick the charts, and this is it. So there's not a lot of magic there. I think the complexity is moreover about this scalability. It's we provide with this DDM horizontal escalation of databases. That means if you see here, for example, in the case in the middle, displayed here, DDM, it just has 2 RDS instances at its access. And from a certain time, you figure out this is reaching the limit of the space, and you need to attach another RDS instance to distribute, again, redistribute the information in the current 2 RDS instance. It's possible. You just create one RDS instance, attach it to the DDM, and do a resharding. This resharding with the current existing production data will be start behind the scenes, and it will be start automatically, so you don't have to do anything. And after that, then your data will be redistributed, and then you may have more space if you are seeing that you can you need to scale horizontally. That's a really big value of this shared technology. That means this database sharing is a horizontal scaling strategy. The organizations benefit from horizontal scaling is because of this fault tolerance architecture. Wow. Now the question is, what do you expect about this? So what you will expect about this, it is clear. It's some kind of specifications that we offer. We will offer these solutions in 3 different possibilities. I mean, the DDM instance, it's just they will be using only use CPUs and memory. That's all for this cluster. This size, it's really minimal, so it will be not then included, but it's included in the price, of course. And then you may see that we have these 3 options. The one is the very small size, 8 CPUs, 16 memory, and so on. Transactions per second, it's also there here displayed, and queries per second also distributed here. For these solutions, when the question is, okay, if I already have set my DDM, the RDS will be stored the data. So how I can just start saving, writing, and reading data from a database. You may have, after you create a DDM instance, a floating API. The port is different from the database number that we already know. The port number from MySQL. From MySQL, it's 5432. In this case, it will be 5066. And with this port, then you can start writing data to the database. So if you want to use it outside the OTC to write, because we still strongly assuming that your application is running on the OTC, then you can probably also bind an AIP, and with this AIP, you can access this data distributed middleware and so on. You can scale in, scale out DDM instance nodes. So if you see that the traffic is too high, you can get a monitoring solution there, so you can still have metrics and see if you have to extend your current DDM from 2 nodes to 3, 4, 5. You can even create most 32 DDM nodes in one instance. That is really huge. And with that, you will solve exactly some kind of connections issue. The resharding is just happening on the data nodes. That means on the target RDS instance. And then the value for these shards at the RDS instance, you can set, and you can manually set a value between 1 to 64. If you set the value of 1, it means that it will be just like a RDS instance is now working. It's unsure, let's say like that. This is you can create also a group of read nodes. Of course, this will be implied that you in your RDS instance already attach some read replica sets, so you can use these options of groups read nodes. What is expected, of course, from the policies point of view. So in this case, we will offer 54 fine-grained policies that it will be available. So this is the list of the ones. So it's just a preview. So we as you know, we are working really hard just to deliver the service. This is supposed to be close to be the final version of the fine-grained policies that we will offer for DDM. If you want to know how many roles we offer for the CDM, there are 3 roles that will be expected to be delivered. And with these roles, then it will be the intention only just that you know the options on the EIM also will be there available for this new service. I think for the really application scenarios, I mean, we're close to the end of my session. The application scenarios is just when you have a huge amount of data. We are talking about billions of rows in your database. So if you are a small company and your database are not growing very fast and you are really not close to reach the limits of RDS, then it's fine. But for the ones, the big companies, they have devices and so on, they have exactly this, they will have these problems. And for them, this will be really a very good option to use it. So as other things is also, as I told you before, applications, the apps, it's also a very good example because apps are storing and sending a lot of data and all the time. So that will be exactly that with this DDM, it's supposed that you may handle a large number of concurrent requests in real time very fast without any problems on performance, and then the capabilities of DDM will be close to be endless. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed a little bit about this introduction of DDM. I get back to Stefan, please.
Thank you a lot, Hector, for having you here and for this great presentation. Next will be again Daniel as stand-in for Tino, as he is not here. So next will be you, Daniel.
Thank you very much. For the last couple of minutes, I would like to introduce you in the database security service, as mentioned on behalf of Tino, which is currently on a well-deserved vacation. Therefore, I would like to highlight to you what exactly DBSS is, the database security service, which is coming in a short period of time. Database security service is a service which is sitting more or less between the application server and the database. I mean, from a logic point of view, not from an architectural point of view, which means that it is able to, for example, sit here and audit all the activities which are coming from a user request to the application server, then going to the database and auditing this so that you have this and can create and generate out of this compliance reports. So you can even track here abnormal operations, like, for example, deletion of tables, and is able to even send you real-time alarms. So this helps you, the service, to meet regulations like the ISO 27001 or the SOX. The database security service, as already more or less mentioned, it's not that this is an architectural view, it's a logical view, is able to, of course, audit and log then, for example, if there's an attack happening, if, for example, there's a normal behavior, or if there's an exceptional behavior where you think, okay, we should maybe check this. So it's able to provide you the logs and analyzes based on these logs, so behavior statistics, session statistics, or statement statistics, whatever is going into the database, and is then able to provide you fine-grained reports. So in session behavior, or you can check what are risky operations which are executed, and can create you based on this compliance reports. And what is, of course, very valuable is if there, for example, are risky operations executing, something where you think, okay, I would like to get notifications, you can create your real-time alerts. So you get information about risky operations executed on your database. You can identify SQL injections and, of course, system resource usage and create alerts based on this. So you get notified, okay, here's an issue happening and I should take a look into my database and maybe create proper action against the activities which are operating. If we come to the characteristics of the functionality or the service of the database security service, it's very easy to set up, like all our cloud services. It's very simple to set up and operate. It's an out-of-the-box deployment, of course. It has no effect on the database performance. So what I've shown you was the logical view. So in reality, the commands from the application server to the database service is not first passing by the database security service. So it's not really that this goes, therefore it has no effect on the real database performance and cannot be any bottleneck for the performance. It's, of course, will be integrated into our existing portfolio, so into the SES, BMS, RDS, to have a full functionality, and of course has compliance built in. So you can clearly divide here permissions among the system. So you can have a security and an audit administrator, so you can have different kind of roles. As already explained, on the right side, you see the features which I've already introduced to you. What you have here and what you see here is that, for example, here, the audit logs which are generated can even be remotely be stored inside a storage, so inside our OBS, for example. So there's an option that you can even store the logs inside our OBS, for example. In addition, it's the database which are supported are, of course, our RDS instances, so the relational database service. And of course, you can even use here with the help of a small agent, you can even use databases which are built on ECS and BMS. And here, for example, we have supported DB types, which are MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, and an SQL server, DWS, and the Mongo database service. So the highlights, in just to summarize it again, is, of course, that you can create real-time alerts on risky and attack behaviors. You have management dashboards for rules and reporting. We have an integration into our RDS service and, of course, support databases built on top of ECS and BMS. It generates the compliance reports. You can create a comprehensive audit, and of course, this has a subscription-based payment included. So that's basically the highlights of this one. What I would like to give you as an idea of our vision, where we go with our security services and portfolio, I would like to give you here an idea about what we're doing. So from a vision point of view, we of course see us as to provide state-of-the-art cloud security center as a centralized platform for threat detection and alarm management. What exactly means this? So right now we have, for example, the anti-DDoS service and the shared WAF in our network portfolio from network services point of view. What we are now available as closed beta is a dedicated WAF, which of course will go general available in a short period of time. But right now we have the dedicated WAF, which is implemented available to you. What we will implement next is exactly this database security service. And on long term, maybe end of this year, beginning of next year, we are implementing a so-called OTC security center, so which provides you a dashboard cockpit, which is integrated to all our other security services and assets which we have, which provides you a baseline inspection about what is going on inside your environment, provides you threat detection and threat events, etc. And we will then continuously integrate to other services. Like, for example, for compute, we will provide here a host security service. For container, we are looking into a container guard service, and will even look into, as we are planning, even to bring in third-party services into our portfolio via a dedicated marketplace or integrations to other third-party. We will want to even bring here the possibility to even integrate here in our security approach to provide connectivity into our, let's say, OTC security center. That's basically what is our product vision from a security service point of view, to have the security service, security dashboard and cockpit. And if we look into the timeline, of course, we have the anti-DDoS and the WAF already implemented. We are now implementing and releasing the dedicated WAF, bring in next the database security service, and from there onwards, bring in the host security service, then this cockpit, which I explained, the situation awareness, and afterwards, the container security service. Of course, this may change depending on customer situation. If something is now requested by customers, we may change this. Let's say which service we bring in next. But basically, this is a plan which we have and where we will go to with our security service portfolio. So if you have any questions, of course, you can always contact my colleague Tino, which is basically taking care of our security service portfolio. Of course, as already mentioned, you can even ask your questions inside the community, review the community YouTube channel, and of course, we have the help center. But of course, feel free to even contact myself or even my colleague Tino. So we are always here to help you out in case of questions. That's it from my side, and now I would like to hand over to Stefan again.
Thank you one more time, Daniel, for your second slot. We still have a few more minutes to go for the Q&A part. So for this, let me shortly have a look at the chat. And I think we have two questions mainly for your part, Hector. Maybe you can read them out and then give a short answer. I see you already put also something in the chat.
The first one, it was about Postgres support. So as I told you in the chat, by now it's not planned. Unfortunately, it is not planned for Postgres. We will see if this is necessary. Of course, we will then think how we can also support this use case. So that means the limitation, or that at least for this version that we will deliver in Q2 will be only used for MySQL. The second question, it was a little bit very structured and somehow complicated, but I think the answer should be also enough. Since the question was more about the consistency and the direction of the transactions. So as DDM is used, is working as the proxy, let's say like that. So actually all that information, all that technology or what is expected to be delivered is already covered by RDS in the direction, of course, of replications and the direction of backups. So that means all what you have already then set on the database on the RDS level and the instance level will be still the same. So that means also for transactions for every database, it's expected for SQL databases that they also fulfills this ACID. And with that, there will be not other issues with DDM. As I told you, DDM can be also, in this case, support a kind of monitoring at the SQL queries level, so you can get on DDM displayed slow queries. And with that, the intention will be for you as an end user to start thinking if the strategies that you already set for the sharding is still fit your needs, or you can just figure out how to think this strategy. The last question, it was regarding, let me see, about the reindexing. So as I told you also on the presentation, when you attach a new RDS and you want to use the sharding, so that means redistribution of the data, it's possible. I'm not sure if it will be also possible for existing strategy for that you have before set on the shardings that you want to readapt this. I'm not sure if this will be possible, but I will then see if this is the issue. It's if the question gets, of course, in this way.
Thank you a lot, Hector, for these answers. So with this, I would then say, same thing that also the last slide says. Thank you a lot for joining the webinar today together with us. When you have any other questions, join the community, post a question there, or you see also here the 3 contact details from our speakers of today. Thank you a lot for joining. And with this, see you hopefully next month again. Thank you a lot and see you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.